Hello everyone, Chasca is the one new 5-star character releasing in Genshin patch 5.2. She's a one-of-a-kind DPS character that has complicated mechanics in theory but easy to play in practice. She did receive some significant changes within her beta cycle, so I wanted to sum up all of the updated information you need to know about Chasca into one final guide. I'll be explaining how Chasca works, the best ways to build her potential best teams, and analyzing her place in the meta in terms of overall strength and pull value. Pretty much everything you need to know with simple and practical explanations while also giving more detailed analysis that is backed by TC. Chasca is a 5-star Animo Bow main DPS that ascends with crit rate. As a natlan character, she plays around the Night Soul mechanic and has mobility for exploration. She is a charged attack oriented bow DPS, but she doesn't have to aim her shots like Ganyu and Linny. In addition, Chasca is not like other Animo main DPSs like Xiao and Wanderer. Chasca doesn't deal much Animo damage. Instead, she deals elemental damage based on the elements of her party members, specifically Pyro, Hydro, Electro, and Cryo. Thus, Chasca can be considered the first multi-element DPS in Genshin. Chasca's entire kit revolves around her elemental skill. When you press her skill, Chasca deals animo damage, generates 5 animo particles, starts flying in the air with her gun, and enters Night Soul's Blessing with 80 Night Soul points. While in this state, Chasca gains increased movement speed and some resistance to interruption. She consumes Night Soul points while hovering and flying around, which is her primary way of exploration movement. While in Night Soul's Blessing, Chasca can perform special normal attacks or charged attacks. Her charged attacks are the only attacks that matter, which can be done by holding down the attack button. While holding down the attack, Chasca will target enemies similar to Nahida's skill and start loading animo bullets called Shadow Hunt shells, which can be ordered 1 to 6. Once fully loaded after a few seconds, she can attack up to 6 enemies to split the damage among them, with each bullet being purely single target. If she targets one enemy, all 6 bullets will hit that one enemy. If she targets 6 enemies, then 1 bullet will hit each enemy. Her animo bullets don't deal that much damage. In order to triple the multipliers of her animo bullets, Chasca needs to convert them into other elements, which you can do based on your party composition. Chasca's 4th, 5th, and 6th bullets can be converted into shining Shadow Hunt shells depending on the number of Pyro, Hydro, Electro, and Cryo units on your team. If Chasca is paired with 2 Pyro characters and a Hydro character, bullets 4, 5, and 6 will have 2 Pyro bullets and 1 Hydro bullet in a random order. So bullets 4, 5, 6 could be Hydro, Pyro, 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 Hydro, or Pyro, Hydro, Pyro. If there is an Electro, Pyro, and Hydro character on the team, bullets 4, 5, 6 will be Electro, Pyro, and Hydro in a random order. If there is a Pyro, Hydro, and Geo character on the team, bullet 4 will remain animo and will be converted, and bullets 5 and 6 will be Pyro and Hydro in a random order. To further enhance her charged attacks, Chasca's A1 passive allows her to convert her 3rd bullet into another element, and it greatly increases the damage of all of her converted elemental bullets depending on the number of different elemental characters on the team. This heavily incentivizes rainbow element team comps where all characters of the team are of different elements. For instance, in a Chasca team with an Electro, Pyro, and Hydro character on the team, all her shining Shadow Hunt shells will gain the full 65% damage bonus, and bullet 3 will always be converted. However, bullet 3 will have a 1/3 chance of it being Electro, Pyro, or Hydro. In a double Pyro single Hydro Chasca team, there will only be 2 different elements other than Chasca. Thus, all her shining Shadow Hunt shells will only get 35% damage bonus, and bullet 3 has a 1/3 chance of just not converting. If you hit the 2/3 chance of conversion, it will be a 50-50 whether the bullet will be Pyro or Hydro. Thus, the overall probability of bullet 3 in this scenario is 1/3 animo, 1/3 Pyro, and 1/3 Hydro. In addition, Chasca can get additional bullets to fire when Night Soul Burst is triggered with her A4 passive. These bullets will always be converted to a different element in the same logic as her A1 and deal 1.5 times the damage of a normal shining Shadow Hunt shell. So for instance, a double Pyro single Hydro team will still result in a 50-50 chance on whether the A4 bullet will be Pyro or Hydro, as it only considers the number of different elements of the team. The last important thing to know about Chasca's bullet mechanics is that Chasca's charged attacks fire bullets in reverse loading order. So even though I've numbered the bullets 1 to 6, the order that the bullets hit an enemy is actually from bullet 6 to bullet 1. This is extremely important when considering what kind of reactions that Chasca can trigger with her charged attacks. Chasca's bullets have a special ICD. Every other bullet can react, and the ICD is separate for animo and converted bullets. Here are the bullets that will react in a Rainbow Chasca team and a Chasca team that only has 2 different Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo teammates. Remember that the elemental order of Chasca's bullets, specifically bullets 4, 5, and and 6 are random, and that the element of bullet 3 is also random as well. Thus, Chasca's damage can vary greatly because a different elemental order results in different reactions triggering. Chasca's elemental burst is much more simple, 60 energy cost, 15-second cooldown, and it just does AoE animo damage, then splits into 6 bullets, all of which can be converted depending on the number of pyro, hydro, electro, and cryo units on your team, just like the special charge attacks from her skill. If your Chasca team consists of an electro, pyro, and hydro character, her burst will have 2 bullets of each element. 2 pyro and 1 hydro teammate results in 4 pyro bullets and 2 hydro bullets, and lastly, a pyro, hydro, and geo teammate results in 2 pyro, 2 hydro, and 2 animo bullets from her burst. All bullets have a special elemental ICD of every other bullet. Lastly, Chasca's special exploration passive allows you to swap into her while mid-air as a Night Zone transmission and gives you 25 phlogiston when you defeat an enemy. That's everything on Chasca's base kit. Talent leveling priority is simple, level skill, then her burst. This graphic does a solid job visualizing and summarizing Chasca's bullet conversion mechanic with plenty of examples. If you're still confused about it, definitely pause and look at all the provided examples. Ultimately, however, you don't really need to know the minute details of this mechanic in order to play Chasca properly. All you need to know is that although Chasca is an animo main DPS, she doesn't deal majority animo damage. She converts her damage into pyro, hydro, electro, and or cryo by having teammates of these elements on her team, so it's important to build your team around this. Then Chasca can just spam different elements and reactions with her special charge attacks and elemental bursts. Thus, Chasca is simple to play in practice. First, you set up your support skills, then switch to Chasca, press her skill to start flying and enter Night Soul's Blessing. Then you hold down the attack button to start loading her bullets in her special charged attack, releasing once all 6 bullets are loaded. You can do at least 4 until her enhanced state is over. Lastly, you can burst if you have it, then loop back to your supports. Next, let's cover Chasca's Constellations. C1 gives 3 main things. First, Chasca can convert an additional bullet from each of her charge attacks, her second bullet, with her A1 passive. Second, Chasca no longer needs 3 different elemental teammates that are pyro, hydro, electro, or cryo to always convert her second and third bullets. This requirement is reduced from 3 teammates to 2. Third, Chasca's Night Soul's Blessing state is extended out of combat. Although C1 is designed to relieve Chasca's rainbow team building requirement, she still doesn't get the full damage bonus on her converted elemental bullets from her A1. That's where her C2 comes in. With C2, she always gets 1 stack of the damage bonus of her A1 passive. Thus, you can run a support like Shilonen in a Chasca team without 90% of the downside you would have compared to C0. In addition, C2 gives 1 bullet of each of her charge attacks an additional extra AoE attack, helping her a lot with AoE damage. C3 increases her skill talent level by 3, C4 gives Chasca 9 energy and 1 AoE bullet on her elemental burst whenever she uses it, C5 increases her burst talent level by 3, and lastly C6 decreases Chasca's charge timing on her charge attacks and allows every other charged attack to be an instant charge that doesn't need any time to load her 6 bullets. On top of that, these attacks will gain 120% crit damage. Overall, Chasca has very strong constellations. Clearly, they are designed in mind to bait you to pull C2, which relieves her team building limitations in a similar way to how Acheron's E2 works with Nihility team members. Just like how allowing an extra Harmony teammate with Acheron with no downside greatly increases her damage, allowing you to slot in a support like Shilonen with Chasca with most downsides removed will increase her damage, on top of giving Chasca some AoE. You definitely shouldn't feel pressured to pull for C2, but there will be a significant difference in Chasca's overall performance with her C2. Next, here are the best builds for Chasca. For weapons, her signature weapon is her best in slot. Crit damage substant and the special passive pretty much just gives her 24% attack, 48% charge attack bonus, and 24% burst damage bonus. Even in non-rainbow teams, her signature will give more damage than her C1 if you don't have other premium 5-star options. These 5-star weapons such as the First Great Magic, Aqua Simulacra, and Polar Star are pretty good on Chasca because of their damage stats. Skyward Harp is only slightly better than their free-to-play 4-star options. For 4-star weapons, R5 Battle Pass is pretty good, being slightly better than Skyward Harp. For free-to-play options, both the Fontaine Craftable and the Natlan Craftable are good and perform similarly. Lastly, Chasca's charge attacks do not fire arrows, thus she cannot utilize the passives of weapons like Amos Bow or Slingshot, so I wouldn't recommend using them. For artifacts, Obsidian Codex is an obvious choice for a Natlan main DPS like Chasca, and it will be her best set. You can also use Maruchuzi Hunter if you're playing Chasca with Farina. For artifact stats, Attack Hourglass, Attack Goblet because she deals different elemental damage, and Crit Circlet, likely crit damage, will be her best general build. Because Chasca will be triggering reactions like Vape and Melt, you can also consider using an EM Hourglass or Goblet. For substats, prioritize Crit, then Attack, then EM, then ER. Chasca's burst deals good damage, but she has relatively high ER requirements in most of her teams if you want to burst every rotation, so don't worry about specifically building ER and just burst every other rotation. Finally, let's go over Chasca's best team comps. Chasca needs to have Pyro, Hydro, Electro, and Cryo teammates so she can convert her bullets. Since she is a charged attack carry, however, she cannot use popular support supports like Yelan and Xingqiu that require normal attacks. In addition, because of Chasca's A1 passive, rainbow element teams where all teammates are of different elements are incentivized to get the maximum amount of damage bonus for her bullets. Thus, Chasca has limited teammate options for most of her meta team comps. In many of her best teams, she's going to be paired with both Farina and Bennett. Farina provides off-field Hydro application, good personal damage, and an amazing damage buff, while Bennett provides both healing and a massive attack buff. With Hydro and Pyro, Chasca can now vape, which is an amazing reaction. For a rainbow element team, the last party member can be either Cryo or Electro. For a Cryo option to allow for some potential Chasca melts and freezes, Layla, C6 Diona, and Shenhe are good options. Layla looks the most promising, providing extra shield comfort and a damage bonus to Chasca's charge attacks at C4. For an Electro option for some overloads and electro charge reactions, the best unit to use is Auroron. Not only does Auroron provide Chasca some energy, but he's also a 4-piece scroll holder, further buffing Chasca on top of dealing decent off-field AoE damage with his A1 passive. On top of that, Chasca deals Night Soul aligned damage, which helps proc Auroron's A1, thus making him less reliant on electro charge uptime. On paper, this team looks like the highest damage team at C0. If you don't like having to use Farina, one potential rainbow team you can run is with Layla, Bennett, and Auroron. Lastly, you don't have to use all 3 different elemental teammates for a Chasca team even at C0. You can still run the Farina Bennett core alongside Xiangling, who provides Pyro Resonance for Chasca, or Xilonen. Even though Xilonen is Geo, which results in less elemental bullets for Chasca, she's still a good teammate option because of her elemental res shred, ability to use 4-piece scroll, and healing for Farina's HP drain. Xilonen's A4 passive even results in triggering extra bullets from Chasca's A4 passive. For C2 plus Chasca's, Xilonen will be by far her best last teammate option, but even at C0, these teams are still fine. Lastly, if you hate circle impact with Bennett, you can swap him out with Auroron, making a very strong team built around pure electro charge, which is getting a buff in the upcoming patch. To conclude this Chasca guide, I wanted to share my analysis on her place in the meta in terms of overall strength and pull value. Out of all the 5-star natlan characters released as of patch 5.2, Chasca is unfortunately looking like the worst one at C0. One of her biggest flaws is her limited meta teammate options. Because she's a charge attack oriented character and her A1 passive incentivizes different elemental teammates, you don't have many good teammate options. Ultimately, almost all her good teams revolve around a combination of Farina, Bennett, Auroron, and Xilonen, with the Cryo options being the most versatile just because none of the Cryo units are that amazing. Other than that, you can't really use many other units without them not working at all with Chasca or just them being worse than these options. Now sure, many other characters' best team options are with Farina Bennett, but the biggest problem in my opinion is that even with her best teammates, her team damage doesn't look too crazy at C0. From current calcs from Theory Crafters, her team damage looks decent on paper, but when comparing these numbers with other top limited 5-star DPSs, which is becoming more relevant since HOYOverse are making newer characters generally better, Chasca falls behind. On top of that, Chasca is completely single target since her bullets are split among multiple enemies. So unlike a character like Hu Tao who can still cleave multiple enemies despite being single target oriented, Chasca's gonna have the same problem as Yoimiya, which likely won't feel very good to play. And unfortunately, Chasca is one of those characters whose issues do get solved with higher constellations, as pulling C2 relieves her team building downsides and gives her AoE damage. She's gonna still clear content fine at C0, so I don't want to doom her too much since her teams are still decent, but if you're looking for a new top tier main DPS, I don't think Chasca is the character for you. Though I wouldn't be surprised if Mawika and Sitlali, who are likely releasing the patch after Chasca, become Chasca's best teammates. Even then, these two are probably buffing other units as well. But if you want Chasca for other reasons like her design, gameplay, or especially her exploration because her movement in the overworld looks amazing, then you should go ahead and pull regardless of meta. And that's everything I wanted to cover about Chasca. I hope this guide and analysis was helpful to you all in giving you a better understanding of everything related to Chasca. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video and want to see more guides like this on future characters. Also, I have a small Discord server, so if you just want to discuss about Genshin, ask any questions, or just chill and talk about other gacha games, feel free to join. For all of you planning on wishing, I wish you all the best of luck on your Chasca pulls.